She fainted holding her newborn. Then a silent stranger stepped in. That baby wouldn't stop crying. It was well past midnight on the icy streets of downtown Toronto. Cold wind sliced through the air, but nobody noticed the trembling young woman, stumbling down the sidewalk, clutching her crying newborn to her chest. Her coat was thin, soaked from earlier snow. Her hands were red from the cold. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. She hadn't eaten in 2. No money, no home, no one to help. Each step felt like dragging a boulder. People passed her by rushing home, talking on phones, laughing in groups. One man slowed for a moment, looked at her tear-streaked face, then turned and kept walking. She tightened her arms around her baby and whispered softly, "Mama's here. I'm sorry. I'm trying." But her legs wobbled. Her breathing turned shallow. One more block, she thought. Just one more. She didn't know where she was going. She had no destination. But something in her told her to keep moving, because if she stopped, she feared she wouldn't get up again. She reached a quiet street corner and tried to cross, but her knees gave out. She fell hard. Her arms lost grip. The baby slipped from her embrace. Mid-cry, gasps erupted from too late night. Pedestrians across the street, but they didn't run over. Instead, someone else did. A tall figure stepped out from the shadows of a glass skyscraper's entrance. A man in a long black coat. He moved quickly and caught the baby midair with one arm, and in the next breath knelt down beside the unconscious woman. He said nothing, didn't shout for help. He simply reached into his coat, pulled out a phone, and called someone. "Prepare the medical suite," he said quietly, "and the nursery, immediately." Then, with effortless strength, he lifted the fainted girl into his arms, tucked the baby against his chest, and disappeared into the building. No one stopped him. No one questioned it. The doors closed behind him, and the city moved on. Hours later, warmth, softness, silence. The girl stirred on a leather sofa, blinking against the soft light around her. She felt a blanket on top of her, something warm beneath. Her back, a scent clean linen, and something sweet, like jasmine, floated in the air. Her heart jumped. The baby. She sat up too fast and winced. But right next to her was a white bassinet. Inside it, her baby was sleeping. Clean, wrapped in a soft blanket, breathing gently. She gasped in relief and burst into tears. "You fainted from exhaustion," said a voice. She looked up. A man stood in the corner of the glass-walled office, tall, dark-haired, wearing a fitted suit, not a wrinkle in sight. He looked at her like he was observing something delicate but unfamiliar. "You've been here about 8 hours, he said, stepping forward and placing a bottle of water on the table near her. "Drink." "Where am I?" she whispered, her voice hoarse. "You're safe. Who are you?" He paused. "Daniel." No last name, no smile, just Daniel. Why did you help me?" she asked. He looked at her, silent for a moment. "Because no one else did." She stared. That couldn't be the whole reason. No one helps like this. Not strangers, not in this city. "I'll leave you to rest," he said, already turning toward the door. "There's food in the kitchen. You and the baby can stay for now." Then he left. Later, after eating more than she had in days, the girl explored the penthouse quietly. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like an office mixed with a luxury hotel. Glass walls, steel shelves, books she couldn't pronounce. Everything was neat, cold, but something caught her eye. A photo on the desk near the window. A woman, young, smiling, holding a baby. The woman had long dark hair, eyes filled with kindness. The girl stepped closer. She froze. The woman in the photo looked exactly like her. Same cheekbones, same dimples, same soft, sad eyes. And the baby in the photo, it looked just like her baby. Same little nose, same patch of curly hair. She reached out to touch the frame, hand trembling. "You shouldn't be in this room." She spun around. A sharp-looking woman in a grey skirtsuit stood behind her, expression unreadable. I was just looking," the girl stammered. "How did you get in here?" I just walked over. The door was open." "Did you touch anything?" She stepped back. "No." The woman looked past her at the photo, then narrowed her eyes. "You need to leave." "What?" "But Daniel said I could stay." "I said leave." Two large silent men in black appeared at the door. She picked up her baby from the bassinet nearby, clutching him close. "I don't understand." "You weren't supposed to see that photo," the woman snapped. "You need to leave. Now." She was escorted out. Hurt, not screamed at, but made to feel like an intruder, like a problem. They put her in a black car. No questions asked. No one explained anything. They drove her for 10 minutes, then stopped at a quiet neighborhood, suburban, snowy, empty. The driver said nothing. The door unlocked. She stepped out with her baby. Before she could ask anything, where am I? What's going on? The car drove off. She stood there in the cold, again shivering. Her baby stirred in her arms. She looked around. No note, no money, no Daniel. She opened the baby's blanket to check him warm, safe, still wearing the clothes from earlier, and something else. A folded note tucked inside the edge of the blanket. She pulled it out with trembling fingers, unfolded it. One line written in clean black ink. You look just like her, but I need to know if you are her. Her breath caught. Who was her? Why did her baby look like the baby in the photo? What did Daniel mean? And most terrifying of all, if he needed to know whether she was that woman, what would he do if she wasn't? Secrets and survival. She stared at the note in her hand as if it might change. You look just like her, but I need to know if you are her. The cold wind hit her face, but she barely felt it. Her heart pounded louder than her baby's breathing. Who was her, and why did Daniel care? She looked round again. Still no sign of the car that dropped her. Still no money, no phone, no one. Clutching her baby tightly, she started walking. Flashback. 1 year ago, her name was Alina Marlowe, 24, quiet, always the girl in the corner at school, the one others forgot to invite. She didn't mind. She liked quiet, until it became her prison. Her mother had passed when she was 16. Her father walked out before she was born, and foster homes were a blur, some kind, some cruel, all temporary. At 19, she got a cleaning job at a hotel. At 21, she was promoted to housekeeping supervisor. She took pride in her work. Clean floors, folded towels, a corner of control in her chaotic world. Then came him a guest, manners, money, mysterious. He never gave a last name, but he remembered hers, called her Miss Marlowe like she mattered. He was gone in a week, but 3 weeks later, she found out she was pregnant. She never saw him again. No way to find him. No name, no trail. Her pride kept her from seeking help. She left her job when the belly started to show. She sold everything to pay for food. When the baby came, she thought the worst was over. But then came winter. Rent overdue. No more favors to ask. And then came the night she fainted. Now she wandered into a public library to warm up. The security guard looked at her baby, then at her thin coat, and let her stay. She curled into a corner with her child wrapped in her lap, rocking slowly, staring at the ceiling. Daniel's voice echoed in her head, because no one else did. And that photo, that woman could have been her twin. But she didn't have a sister, did she? The next morning, she woke to a soft noise. A paper slipped under her arm. She sat up. The baby stirred but stayed asleep. She opened the folded note. If you want answers, go to Eastwood Cemetery. Grave 41. Noon. No signature, but she knew the handwriting. Daniel. Later that day, Eastwood Cemetery's no crunched under her boots. The cemetery was quiet, white, peaceful in a way that felt wrong. She searched until she found grave. For one. Her breath caught in her throat. Isabella Marlowe, beloved daughter, 1999 to 2020. She dropped to her knees. Isabella, the name sounded distant, but familiar, like a dream half remembered. The face from the photo came flooding back. The same face, her face. Her hands trembled. Was this her sister, a twin? Why didn't she know? Why had no one told her? Footsteps behind her. She turned. Daniel stood there, black coat buttoned tight, hands in his pockets. He didn't speak. Alina stood slowly, tears forming. Who was she? She asked. He looked down at the grave. My fiancée. Alina felt her heart drop. She looked just like me. I know. Daniel's eyes were dark with memory. We were together 5 years. She died suddenly. Car crash. No driver found. It destroyed everything. And now, Alina whispered, you think I'm her? He shook his head. No, I thought I was losing my mind when I saw you. But I knew you weren't her. Then why did you help me? His voice softened. Because I couldn't save her, but I could save you. They stood in silence, the wind brushing snowflakes around their feet. Alina looked at the grave again. I never knew I had a sister. I was in foster care. No one ever said. Daniel's eyes narrowed. You were separated, I guess. I thought I was an only child. I never knew my real parents." He reached into his coat and pulled out a manila envelope. She opened it slowly. Inside were adoption papers. For Isabella Marlowe. It listed a birth date. It matched hers. "I found these after she died," Daniel said. "She never knew she was adopted." "Neither did I." Elena's legs gave out. She sat back on the snow-covered bench, dizzy. All this time she wasn't alone. She had a sister, and now that sister was dead. Back at Daniel's penthouse, he brought her and the baby back without question, but now the silence between them felt heavier. Daniel sat at his desk that night, staring at Isabella's old photos. Elena sat on the couch, rocking the baby. The silence broke. "Did Isabella know? The man I was with, the father of my baby?" Daniel looked up, surprised. "No, she died before your pregnancy, so he couldn't be involved in your world." Daniel hesitated. "What do you mean?" Elena looked at him carefully. "The man who got me pregnant. I don't know his name. He stayed at the hotel I worked at. Black card, custom suits, private car, quiet, powerful." Daniel stood slowly. His voice turned to steel. "What hotel?" she told him. "Gave the month." He didn't move for a long moment. Then, slowly, he said, "That was the same month Isabella was followed, harassed, by a man she wouldn't name." Elena's eyes widened. "You think it's the same guy?" "I don't believe in coincidence." Later that night, she couldn't sleep. Elena crept into the office again. The photo of Isabella still sat on the desk. She studied the baby in her arms. Not hers, Isabella's, but they looked almost identical. She reached for the drawer and opened it gently. Inside were letters, dozens, all from Isabella, written but never sent. Some were addressed to Mom, others to unknown twin. Elena's breath caught. She read one. "I feel her sometimes. Somewhere out there, like there's another me. Is that crazy?" Another said, "Mom, you never told me why you gave us away. If she's still alive, I hope someone loves her." Tears poured from Elena's eyes. All this time, they were both searching for something they'd lost before they even knew it. And now, it was too late. Or was it? The next morning, a knock at the door. Daniel opened it. A woman in a black coat entered. Sharp eyes, red lipstick. She looked straight past him and toward Elena, who had just stepped into the room holding her baby. "Who is this?" Elena whispered. Daniel didn't look at her. "Vivian, Isabella's godmother." Vivian walked slowly toward her, her heels silent on the tile. "You look just like her," she said softly. "I know," Elena replied. Vivian tilted her head. "And who's the baby?" "My son." Vivian narrowed her eyes. "You think you're safe here?" "What?" She turned to Daniel. "You didn't tell her, did you?" Daniel frowned. "Tell her what?" Vivian opened her purse and pulled out a flash drive. She handed it to Daniel. "Security footage from the night Isabella died." He plugged it into the laptop. Elena walked over, baby in her arms, watching the screen. A video played. Night headlights. A black SUV following Isabella's car. Then a sharp turn. Screeching brakes. Impact. Static. Then, for 1 second, a clear frame. The license plate of the SUV. Daniel froze. Elena whispered, "Do you recognize it?" He nodded slowly. "Yes." Cut to a locked drawer in Daniel's office. He opened it, pulled out a business card. One name, written in gold. Miles Kenner, CEO, Argent Holdings. Elena blinked. "That's him. That's the man from the hotel." Daniel looked at her, voice low. "He's not just the man who used you. He's the man who killed your sister." Revenge and revelation. Elena's world collapsed in silence. The name on the card, Miles Kenner, looked like any other CEO's name. Sleek, clean, professional. But Daniel's words still rang in her ears. "He's not just the man who used you. He's the man who killed your sister." She couldn't breathe. She looked down at her baby, fast asleep in her arms. Warm, innocent, a life born of the darkest deception. "How do you know?" she whispered. Daniel pulled the flash drive out of his laptop. "The SUV in the footage, Miles bought it 2 weeks before Isabella died. Same license plate. He sold it a month later." Quietly, Vivian crossed her arms. "Isabella didn't trust him. She never told you, Daniel, but she had a bad feeling. She told me someone was following her, said she was being watched." Daniel clenched his jaw, and she was right. Later that day, Elena sat alone in the nursery, rocking her baby. The silence of the room pressed on her chest like a weight. A part of her wanted to scream, to break things, to disappear, but something had changed. A fire had awakened in her, a strength she didn't know she had. She wasn't that fainting girl anymore. She wasn't running. Not now. She would fight back. Flashback. 9 months ago it was. A warm evening when Alina first met Miles. She was working a night shift at the Regency Suites. He checked in late, wearing a tailored charcoal suit, eyes hidden behind tinted glasses, but he was polite, overly polite. Called her by name. His voice was smooth, confident. He asked for extra towels, then a drink from the bar, then directions to the rooftop. And later that night, when the lobby was quiet, he asked if she ever felt like the world forgot people like her. She didn't answer. He didn't need her to, because in that moment, she wanted to be seen, and he made her feel like she was. But now, she knew it wasn't kindness, it was control. Back to now. Tell me what I can do, Alina said to Daniel that night. I want to expose him. Daniel didn't answer immediately. He paced the office, staring out over the glowing city lights. If we go public, he'll crush you in court, he said. He has power. Lawyers' lies. You were a maid. You have no photos, no proof. It'll be your word against his. Then, we get proof, she said firmly. Daniel turned, surprised Alina. I'm not scared anymore. I want to know the truth. I want to know if he hurt Isabella, if he planned this, if he used me the way he used her. I want to know everything. Daniel's eyes softened. You've changed. She nodded. She was my sister. I never got to say goodbye, but I can give her justice. The plan. Vivian leaned over the table. Miles hosts an annual gala next week. Quiet invite list. All powerful men. All clean records on the surface. Daniel pulled up a file. But underneath, scandals, bribes, affairs. Miles doesn't just run a company. He controls people. Secrets are his currency. Elena stared at the photo of him. Then let's take that away from him. They built a plan that Alina would go undercover as a catering staff, with a wig. New ID. Daniel would provide security clearance. Vivian would get the floor plan. The goal, get into his private study during the gala. He always kept blackmail material locked in his safe. Photos, videos, files, and maybe, just maybe, something about Isabella. 1 week later, the gala. The ballroom was golden and glittering. People clinked champagne glasses and smiled like they belonged to another world. Alina wore a crisp black uniform and a low ponytail under a server's cap. No one looked at her. Perfect. Daniel watched from the mezzanine, eyes scanning every face. Vivian stayed outside, feeding intel through a mic. Target is moving toward the West Wing. She whispered in Elena's earpiece. Go now, Elena. Slipped out of the ballroom and down a hallway. 2 guards. Casual chatting. She passed with a tray. Slipped into a guest bathroom. Changed into a black cocktail dress hidden in her bag. Then doubled back. She reached Miles' office. Locked. She reached into her boot and pulled out a tiny key Daniel had given her. Clicked inside. The room was dark wood and steel. Bookshelves, whiskey bottles, and a massive desk. She crossed quickly to the bookshelf where Daniel said the hidden safe was. She found it. She knelt, entering the code they'd decoded from an old email Vivian found. 9192. Isabella's birth date. The safe clicked. She pulled the door open and froze. Inside were dozens of files, names, numbers, photos. And one folder marked MM. She opened it. Inside, photos of Isabella. Candid, private, some of her with Daniel, some of her alone, one of her crying in a hallway. A typed note, uncooperative, threatens exposure, monitoring daily, preparing leverage. Elena's hands shook. He had been planning something. He wasn't just obsessed, he was trying to break her. And then one more photo of Isabella's car, crashed. From above, someone had taken the photo. Elena's breath caught. Before she could react, the door slammed open behind her. She turned. Miles stood there. I recognized you, he said calmly, stepping inside. Alina backed away. Stay away from me, he smiled. You know, I almost believed you were dead, but here you are, and with my child, no less. Her blood went cold. You knew. Oh, I knew, he said, locking the door. I always know. He stepped closer, tried to help your sister. She didn't listen. She went to Daniel. I warned her, told her to back off. She made her choice. You killed her, Alina spat. He smiled again. You think you're the first girl to come from nothing, thinking she could take me down. He lunged, but before he could touch her glass, shattered. Daniel tackled him from behind, slamming him into the desk. Guards burst in, Vivian right behind them. "You're done," Daniel said, pressing a recording device into Miles's chest. "Everything you just said. We got it." Miles's smile faded. 2 days later, news headlines. CEO Miles Kenner under federal investigation for homicide cover-up, exploitation, and corporate blackmail. Ring anonymous witnesses and audio confession lead to arrest. Tragedy behind a titan. The fall of a billionaire. Daniel's penthouse. Alina stood at the window, baby in her arms. Vivian approached with a letter in her hand. "It's from Isabella," she said softly. Alina opened it with shaking hands. "If you ever find her, my sister, tell her I never stopped dreaming about her. Tell her I hope she's brave and strong, and that she gets the life I never could." Tears fell silently. Daniel walked over. He knelt before the baby. "He'll grow up knowing," he said, "the truth. His mother's strength, his aunt's courage, and that he was never born from shame but from survival." Elena smiled faintly. "He deserves that." Daniel looked up. "So do you?" She nodded. "Not broken, not afraid, not alone, not anymore." Closure and catharsis. Snowflakes floated past the window like falling feathers. Elena sat in Daniel's penthouse nursery, cradling her son. He was almost 6 months old, now smiling more, recognizing faces, gripping her fingers like he never wanted to let go. Neither did she. So much had changed in such a short time. The girl who once fainted on a street corner, cold, lost, alone, was gone. In her place stood a mother, a survivor, a woman who faced monsters and didn't run, but as peaceful as the room felt. Alina knew it wasn't over, not completely. 2 weeks after the gala, Miles Kenner had been arrested on 6 federal charges: corporate blackmail, tampering with evidence, homicide suspicion, witness intimidation, exploitation. His empire collapsed in days. Investors fled, partners ran, news anchors called it the fall of a shadow king. But Alina didn't care about the headlines. She only cared about the truth. One piece still haunted her. Why had Miles targeted Isabella in the first place? What had she known? Daniel's study. That night Vivian arrived with another folder, quiet, heavy-eyed. "I found something," she said, placing it on the desk. Alina opened it. Inside were documents from an old court case. 15 years ago, a whistleblower from Miles's company had tried to expose illegal medical testing tied to his private labs. It had gone quiet, settled out of court. No one knew the whistleblower's name until now. At the bottom of the last page, in tiny inked print, plaintiff Miriam Marlowe. Elena's eyes widened. "That's our mother." Vivian nodded. "She tried to expose him. She failed. Disappeared soon after." Alina stared blankly. "Miles covered it up," Vivian continued. "But I think he remembered the name, Marlowe. When Isabella came into Daniel's life, he must have connected it, got scared, and acted." "Isabella didn't even know our real mother's name," Alina whispered. "But he did," Daniel said quietly, "and he never forgot." Alina held her son tighter. "That means she died trying to protect us." Vivian nodded. "And Isabella died because of what she never knew." Tears slipped down Elena's face, but it wasn't just pain anymore, it was clarity. 1 month later, a courtroom in Toronto. Elena stood outside the courtroom doors, dressed in calm grays, holding a folder of her testimony. Daniel stood beside her, not as a savior, but as an ally. "You don't have to do this," he said gently. "Yes," she said, her voice steady. "I do today." She would speak on record, not just for Miles's crimes, but for everything he stole. For her mother, for her sister, for herself. Inside the courtroom, the room was filled with press, lawyers, observers, but Elena saw none of them. She walked to the stand, placed her hand on the Bible, and began. "I'm Elena Marlowe. I grew up thinking I was alone. No parents, no siblings, nothing but questions. I never knew my mother's name. I didn't know I had a sister. And I never thought someone like Miles Kenner would even see someone like me." Her voice shook, but only for a moment, until I found out the truth. That he didn't just see me, he targeted me, just like he did Isabella, just like he tried to silence my mother. But this time, someone finally stood up and said, "Enough." She looked directly at Miles, now in handcuffs. "He built an empire on secrets, but I survived. So did my son. And the truth doesn't stay buried forever." Later that evening, rooftop garden. Elena stood on the rooftop of Daniel's building. Snow coated the railing. City lights glowed below. She held a small silver urn in her hands. Vivian stood beside her, along with Daniel. This was Isabella's. Vivian said softly, "I think you should be the one." Elena took a deep breath. She opened the urn and let the ashes scatter across the wind. No more hidden graves, no more silenced names. "I'm sorry I never found you in time," Elena whispered, "but I'll carry you forward now, every day." The wind howled gently, as if answering. Weeks later, new beginnings. Elena moved into a quiet house outside the city. Small garden, warm kitchen, a real crib for her son. Daniel didn't pressure her to stay. He helped her move in, paid for nothing. She didn't accept, supported Herb, never tried to rescue her again. They met often, for coffee, for walks, not as a billionaire and a lost girl, but as two people healing beside each other. Vivian came too, bringing letters from Isabella's journals, photos, memories, and one day, she brought something else, a sealed envelope from social services, dated nearly 25 years ago. Inside were the original adoption papers. 2 names, Isabella, Marlowe, Elena, Marlowe twins. Elena wept for a long time, and then, she smiled. 1 year later, a quiet celebration. Her baby turned 1. The living room was filled with laughter, balloons, a cake that Daniel insisted on baking himself. Opening parenthesis, badly closing parenthesis. Vivian brought a tiny golden bracelet that once belonged to Isabella. "Now, it belongs to him," she said. Elena placed it on her son's wrist gently. They sang softly, just the 3 of them, family not by blood, not by title, but by choice. That night, a final letter. Lena sat by the window as her son slept, writing in her journal, the same one Isabella had once kept. She wrote, "Dear Isabella, I didn't get to grow up with you. I didn't get to braid your hair or share secrets or laugh under the blankets at midnight. But I feel you with me, in him, in me, in the strength I didn't know I had. You were stolen from us, but your name lives on. Your courage lives on. Your love, it didn't vanish. It planted something inside me, a flame. You saved me, even in death. Now, I promise to live a life that honors you. With love, your sister, Elena." She closed the journal, placed it on the shelf, next to a photo of the 2 sisters, Elena on the left, Isabella on the right. Identical, yet different. Apart, yet connected forever. Outside, the snow began to fall again. But inside the little house, there was warmth, there was peace, there was hope. The end.